What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mix Academy. I'm David Glenn, and I'm here to help you take the good, the bad, and the ugly of home recordings and turn them into hit records. Today, I've got 10 pro mixing tips for you, and without further ado, let's get into it. All right, up first is SONARWORKS. Now, you've probably heard of them. If you haven't, man, check out the link in the description. Non-affiliated, non-sponsored, but you've probably been living under a rock because these guys have been all the rage the last several years, and I use them. I swear by them. Headphone calibration, monitor calibration, and basically if you can't hear things accurately, you won't get good results. You're gonna think your headphones, they may have an enhanced bottom end, and you may think you don't need to boost into that kick drum to get it to hit or that bass to get it to fill out. SONARWORKS is gonna remove that. It's gonna flatten it. Or you may not have enough bass, like my Sennheiser HD650s. There's a decent bump for my headphones that allow me to then hear it more accurately and make good decisions. The number one thing that I've seen in amateur mixes is not necessarily that you or whoever are not talented enough to mix great records. It's that you're not hearing things accurately to make good decisions. So number one, SONARWORKS. Check them out in the link in the description below. All right, up at number two is to listen to tons of music through your headphones and your monitors. If you don't learn them, you're not gonna be able to understand them. And just thinking you're gonna pull up a mix and be able to hear the finished result, it's just not gonna happen. So if you listen to tons of your favorite artists, bands, mixes, even more importantly, regardless if they're by your favorite artists and bands, the mixes that you think sound great, you're going to begin to learn what that finished result sounds like and then make decisions that help you get to that finished result. All right, number three, I was guilty of this for a long time with top-down mixing. I had a template with top end boosted, bottom end boosted. I still see pro mixers doing this, and if it works for you, great. But this tip is to listen, determine, and then process. Don't just rush to slapping an EQ on and boosting top end because your favorite mixer does it, or because you're used to doing it, or you've done it so often. It's gonna bite you in the butt. I remember having a project come into me where the recordings were just incredible, and that was rare for me to get a full session that just was immaculate. And my top end boost, the bottom end boost, the mid, all this stuff that I was doing on my 2-bus was irrelevant because every sample that was picked for the drums or whatever it was had already been recorded really well with the EQ adjusted. I barely had to do anything, and it bit me in the butt having all that processing. I ended up chasing my tail until I finally said enough, started from scratch, took all that garbage off, and made decisions that were relevant to the tracks that I was dealing with. So listen first, then process. All right, coming in at tip number 4, the mute button. Hit the mute button. If you've got tracks that are coming to you that are overproduced, almost every single mix is overproduced. Up and coming, aspiring engineers, get excited, start recording, layering, doubling, tripling, you name it. And at the end of the day, all of that's not necessary. There's only so much room in the frequency spectrum for things to be represented. And a lot of young up-and-comers, they don't know that. So super talented, incredible musicians, but the production or arrangement mind is still immature. So you as the mixer have to come with some maturity and some wisdom to say, hey, all of this just isn't gonna work. And then prioritize it. Use your ear, check the rough, see what they've got going on. And then at the end of the day, good communication is key, but don't be afraid to hit that mute button and clean things up a bit. Number 5, automation. Amateur and boring mixes will stay flat. Pro mixes will jump out at you at the chorus. Check the video above for a link to an explanation on that. Your drum fills are gonna pop, pull those up. If you've got bass that is not super important in the verse, go ahead and high pass 70 hertz or so, clean up some of the bass, but then at the chorus, bypass that high pass filter and let the full amount of bass come back into the mix. We could talk for days about automation tips and tricks, but I'll maybe link to a couple of those videos above. Definitely want to make sure that you're moving things and creating some interest with automation. All right, I've talked about referencing a ton. Coming in at number 6 is referencing, but not just pulling up a mix and clicking back and forth. What I want you to do is make sure you get your reference plug-in. Choose a reference that's a similar key, similar energy and vibe, similar tempo is important for low-end energy, how much sustain is in the kick and how much bass is rumbling out. Huge to pick songs that are similar in vibe, energy, and tempo. And then level match. Make sure you level match so that you're comparing apples to apples. And then finally, make sure that your mix is going through some sort of loudness processing, be it parallel compression into a clipper and a limiter like I do, or at the very least hit it with a limiter so you can compare somewhat apples to apples. The low end trick that I show, I'm going to try to zip through this for rapid fire. I'm going to go down to 30-40 hertz. I'm going to click and listen to the reference. I'm going to come over and listen to mine. How's my kick hitting? How's my bass sustaining? Is it similar? Is it what I want? What they're doing, is that what I want? I'm going to open that up. I'm going to go to that kind of 50, 60, 70 hertz, work my way up to 100, 150 hertz. Once I've dealt with my low end, I've made the changes, I've got it hitting hard, I've done some transient shaping, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to get rid of the low end and I'm going to focus on the low mids and above. I'm going to kind of listen through and work my way to 1K. Then I'm going to listen and compare to the reference. How's the sibilance in my vocal compared to theirs? How are the cymbals? How's the top end? And on and on. How's that for rapid fire? Number 6, referencing. All right, coming in at number 7 is to treat the mix as if it's your own. If you were the artist or the band, how would you want things to be? If you give your best effort, I guarantee you it's going to be easier for them to recommend you to other people. And you're probably going to cut down, as I've found, on your revision time. They're going to come back to you and they're going to feel and experience that you've actually put time into this and cared about their song. I'm telling you, that's going to land you more clients. Coming in at number 8 and right up there with SONARWORKS for me is the sub pack. I'm telling you what. To feel the low-end energy hitting you in the back, pulsing against your body. It's a complete experience. Again, no affiliate link, no sponsorship. Check them out. Link in the description below. I think they just launched a new campaign for a new model, and I'll have to be checking that out because this is a game changer. You may think gimmick. You may think, I can just do the low-end trick and get by. I'm telling you, the low-end trick goes to a whole nother level when you can actually feel the energy of the kick or the bass sustaining up against your body. Incredible tool, sub pack. All right, we're getting there. At number 9, we're going to talk about mixing through, or at the very least, checking your mix through some sort of loudness processing. Now, I recently did a video, I'm going to link to it above, where I break down my exact loudness chain. I like to mix through some parallel compression, and then I hit a clipper before my final limiter, and that's going to give me a good representation of what a mastering engineer would do. And I can manage my low end and make sure that things are coming together for a final industry sound. If you don't like to mix through that processing, I highly recommend get you something in your template that at the very least is a kind of a loudness representation of how it's going to sound once it does get mastered. Often a single limiter is not enough. I feel like that's not as clean or transparent as you can get. So parallel compression, a little clipping at the very least before that final limiter is going to take some of the load off of that final limiter and help you hear what things will sound like once they do get mastered. All right, the final tip for today's video, and I've got tons more to come, but for today, number 10 is to sleep on it. Never, ever, ever send a mix off to a client after a days-long mixing session. Your ears are tired, whether you want to admit it or not. Humble yourself, bounce the mix, take some notes on your phone, listen on buds, and then separate yourself from it. Get some Z's, come back the next morning, and tweak the mix based on your notes. I guarantee you'll have some, especially if you're paying attention to the previous tip that I shared about treating it as your own baby. And hit those notes, then send it off. This tip comes to us from Paul Salvesen. He hit me with this years ago, multi-Grammy award-winning engineer, and my mix relationship, I should say, with clients has been highly improved from that, and it will cut down on the revision process substantially. So hope you enjoy that. The top 10 tips for today. I probably could do another top 10 part 2 and hit you with a whole bunch more. Drop a comment. Let me know below if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like if you want to see more videos like this. Would love to have you join the TMA family. And we got free multi-tracks, all kinds of goodies at themixacademy.com. Check it out, and we'll see you in the next one.